Imagine driving down an empty highway, the kind that feels like it goes on forever, the dark road ahead stretching out into nothingness. The only sound is the steady hum of your tires and the occasional flicker of your headlights cutting through the night. It's just you, alone on the road, or so you think. But suddenly, in your rearview mirror, you catch something, a figure, standing still in the darkness. You blink, and it's gone. You tell yourself it's nothing. But then it happens again. The same shadow. And this time it's closer. Too close. Something or someone is out there, following you. And now you can't escape it. What was once a peaceful drive has turned into a nightmare. And the more you try to shake it, the more you realize you're not alone on this road. Not anymore. Stay tuned, because what happens next is too chilling to ignore. But before we get started, here's something strange. Most viewers make one huge mistake. They leave without subscribing. Don't be one of them. Hit that subscribe button now, because tonight's journey into the darkness is just the beginning. This story is only going to get more terrifying, and trust me, you won't want to miss what's coming next. It started out as just another road trip. Mark and Sarah had been friends for years. They were used to these long drives, the endless stretches of road, the quiet that only a highway at night could bring. The weekend getaway in the mountains had been great, beautiful views, fresh air, but now it was time to head home. They had the whole drive ahead of them, and they were both ready to get back, to return to the reality that awaited them. But this trip was about to take a turn for the worse. A turn that neither of them could have ever seen coming. The sky was dark, with not a star in sight, and the highway stretched on forever ahead of them. It was empty, quiet, the kind of road where you could drive for miles and not see a single other car. The only light came from their headlights, cutting through the pitch-black night, illuminating the road in front of them. On either side, the fields were barren, desolate, and beyond those fields, the dark woods loomed, silent, oppressive, as though they were hiding something. Something just out of sight. For the first few miles, everything seemed normal. The car rumbled down the road, its tires chewing through the asphalt with a steady rhythm. The air was cool, the night was calm. Nothing to worry about, but as they drove deeper into the night, a strange unease began to settle over them. It was subtle at first, the kind of feeling you can't quite put your finger on. Maybe it was the emptiness of the road. Maybe it was the fact that the only sound was the hum of the engine, but for some reason, it didn't feel peaceful. It felt wrong. The car radio, which had been silent for most of the trip, suddenly crackled to life, but not with music or a voice. No, instead, all that filled the air was static. Loud, sharp, and unsettling static that seemed to fill the car, drowning out everything else. Sarah reached for the dial, twisting it to find a station, but the static wouldn't go away. It kept getting louder, more frantic, as if the radio itself was trying to warn them. And then, as they passed a small, empty stretch of road, Mark saw it. A shadow. At first, he thought it was just a trick of the light, or maybe a tree, but then it moved. It wasn't a tree. It wasn't an animal. No, it was something much more unnatural. A figure, standing motionless at the edge of the road, almost as if it had been waiting for them to arrive. Mark's hand gripped the steering wheel tighter, his knuckles going white. He glanced at Sarah, but she hadn't noticed it yet. "Did you see that?" Mark asked, his voice low, almost uncertain, like he wasn't sure if he wanted to know the answer. Sarah looked up, eyes scanning the road. She didn't see anything at first, but then, as they passed the spot, her eyes widened. She saw it too. A figure. A person. Or at least it looked like one, standing completely still, just off the side of the road, watching them drive by. Neither of them said a word. The moment passed, and they kept driving. But the unease that had settled in their stomachs didn't go away. Instead, it grew. Mark checked the rearview mirror, just to be sure. But nothing was there. No figure. No shadow. Just the empty road stretching behind them. Still, something didn't sit right. They couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched, followed even, by something they couldn't see. But as they continued down the road, things started to get worse. The headlights, which had been bright and steady, flickered once, then twice. The radio crackled again, louder this time, as if something, or someone was trying to get through. The silence of the night seemed to swallow them whole. The car felt too small, too enclosed, like it was shrinking with each passing mile. The deeper they drove into the night, the more the atmosphere around them seemed to grow thicker, heavier. And then there was again, another figure. But this time, it wasn't just standing still. No, this time it was moving. Slowly, almost like it was pacing beside the car. Mark's foot pressed harder on the gas, the engine roaring as the car sped up, But no matter how fast they went, that figure kept matching their speed. It wasn't running. It was walking. Walking alongside them, in the dark. Mark and Sarah tried to shake the feeling off. They told themselves it was just their minds playing tricks, that it was just the dark road, the isolation, the endless stretch of highway that made everything feel so off. But then it happened again, something they couldn't ignore. At first, they thought it was just another car, a vehicle passing by, maybe catching up to them on the empty road. But as they glanced into the rearview mirror, Mark's blood ran cold. It wasn't a car. It wasn't even another person moving in the distance. No, what he saw, standing too still, too close, was the figure. That same shadow that had appeared earlier. And this time, it was right behind them. Mark's hand gripped the steering wheel tightly, his knuckles pale. He glanced at Sarah, but she was already staring ahead, too scared to speak. The figure, it wasn't just walking anymore. It was standing there, motionless, so close to the car now that it looked as if it were right on their tail. As if it was attached to them somehow. Sarah finally spoke, her voice trembling. "Mark, it's right behind us. Look, it's getting closer." Mark's breath hitched in his throat. His eyes locked on the rearview mirror. The figure was there, closer than before. Too close. It wasn't running. It wasn't even moving fast, but its presence was undeniable, as though it was gaining on them no matter how fast they drove. The car engine roared as Mark pressed harder on the gas pedal, but the figure remained right behind them, stalking them. Suddenly, there was a sharp, sudden noise, a loud screeching sound that broke the silence. It was like the air itself had been torn apart. Sarah gasped, her hands flying to her ears as the noise pierced through the car like nails on a chalkboard. Mark slammed his foot harder on the gas, trying to escape the terror that seemed to be creeping up from behind them. But no matter what he did, the figure was always there. They glanced in the rearview again, and this time, it was even worse. The figure was no longer standing. No, now it was moving. Slowly. Purposefully. The silhouette of a person, a dark shape, its arms hanging by its sides, just pacing behind them. The shadow was almost too clear now, as if it had been drawn into the night itself, locked into the space between the two of them and the darkness beyond. Mark's heart hammered in his chest. "What the hell is that?" he muttered under his breath. But Sarah didn't respond. She couldn't. She was too terrified to say anything. Every inch of her body was frozen, her eyes wide with panic. Mark looked ahead, his foot still pressed to the gas, but the car seemed to be moving slower, as though the road itself was pushing back against them, refusing to let them escape. The figure, growing closer still, seemed almost too real, too solid. It didn't belong here. It didn't belong in the world of the living. And yet, there it was, attached to them like a shadow. The radio crackled again, louder this time, the static filling the car with an unnatural sound that made their skin crawl. It felt like the car, the road, the night itself were closing in around them, trapping them in this nightmare. Mark pushed the gas pedal to the floor, the engine growling in response, but still, the figure didn't fade away. It remained just behind them, always within view in the rearview mirror, always there. Watching them, waiting for them to make a mistake. And then out of nowhere, a loud bang, a screech of metal grinding on metal, followed by the sound of something heavy slamming against the back of the car. Mark nearly swerved off the road, his heart leaping into his throat. He couldn't explain it. It was like something had hit the back of the car. Something, or someone. He slammed his foot on the brakes, but the car didn't stop. It was as though it had no control over itself, like the force from behind was pulling them forward, dragging them deeper into the dark. He glanced in the rearview one last time and saw it. The figure was gone, but only for a moment. They kept driving. Faster, faster, until the air felt thick, like it was pressing them into their seats. Their hearts raced. The silence was deafening. And somewhere out there in the blackness, that figure was still watching, waiting, ready to make its move again. The seconds stretched into eternity as Mark and Sarah pushed the car harder, praying that the distance between them and that figure would be enough to outrun it. The engine roared, the headlights cutting through the night, the fear flooding their veins. The road ahead seemed endless, like they could drive forever, but then, as if the very night itself was conspiring against them, something terrible happened. The car sputtered. A harsh, jerking motion sent them both slamming into their seats. The engine groaned. The sound of the tires skidding across the road rang in their ears. And just like that, everything went silent. The engine cut out, the headlights flickered and died, and they were left in total darkness. "What the hell?" Mark shouted, his hands trembling as he tried to restart the car. But it was no use. The car wouldn't budge. They were stranded in the middle of nowhere, the endless highway surrounding them, the air thick with tension, the silence deafening. Sarah's breath was shallow, her eyes wide, flicking nervously toward the rearview mirror, still expecting to see that figure. But it was worse than that. As they sat there in the car, trying to comprehend the sudden failure of the engine, a cold feeling settled over them. A presence. It wasn't just the darkness. It was something, waiting, moving in the air around them. They both heard it at the same time, footsteps, slow and deliberate, crunching on the gravel, coming closer. Mark's heart stopped as he turned his head toward the window. And there it was, that same figure, standing right outside the car. It hadn't run after them. No, it was right there, motionless, silent, just staring at them through the window, its face hidden in the shadow, its presence suffocating. It wasn't even breathing. There was no sound, no movement, just this dreadful stillness. Mark's hand went to the door handle instinctively, but Sarah grabbed his arm, her grip tight, her voice barely above a whisper. "Don't open it. Don't get out." But Mark's curiosity, his need to understand what was happening, overpowered his fear. He couldn't just sit there, trapped in the car with someone staring at them from outside. His hand hesitated for only a moment before he reached for the door handle, slowly opening it. As soon as the door creaked open, the temperature dropped. The air turned icy, biting at their skin. Mark stepped out of the car, his boots crunching on the gravel. The figure remained motionless, its shadow swallowed by the night. But then something caught his eye, a smear of something dark on the side mirror. He reached for it instinctively, his fingers brushing against something sticky. He pulled his hand back quickly. It was blood. There, smeared on the side mirror, was a bloodied handprint, as if someone had pressed their hand against it, leaving an impression that shouldn't have been there. His heart pounded harder in his chest. What was happening? Why was there blood? He turned to look at the trunk, his instincts telling him something was wrong. A strange, nagging feeling in his gut urged him to check it. He could feel Sarah's fearful gaze on him, but he couldn't stop himself. He walked around to the back of the car, his footsteps slow and deliberate, as if the air itself was pulling him toward it. He grabbed the handle of the trunk, and with a heavy breath, he opened it. What he saw inside made his blood run cold. There, in the trunk, lying lifeless and curled up, was a body that shouldn't have been there, a body they didn't recognize. It was covered in blood, its eyes wide open, frozen in a look of terror. Mark stumbled back, his breath catching in his throat as he felt his legs weaken beneath him. He stumbled forward, his back slamming against the side of the car. "Mark!" Sarah screamed from inside the car. "What is it? What's going on?" Mark couldn't respond. His mouth felt dry, his body frozen in place as the realization hit him. The figure outside the car, the strange feeling in the air, the blood on the mirror. This wasn't just a random encounter. This wasn't just some crazy person on the road. No, the figure that had been following them, had been there for much longer than they had thought. And that body in the trunk, it wasn't just a victim, it was a warning. After what felt like an eternity, Mark and Sarah managed to gather the strength to slam the trunk shut. Their breaths were ragged, their bodies trembling with fear. The body inside, the blood, the shadow, everything they had just witnessed seemed too much for their minds to process. But there was no time for answers. They needed to escape. They needed to leave. The figure was still out there, lingering, waiting for its next move. Mark rushed to the driver's seat, his hands shaking so badly that he could hardly grip the wheel. Sarah was already in the passenger seat, her eyes wide and unblinking, staring straight ahead. The car had been silent for too long, the night too still. The figure, still standing motionless outside the car, seemed to melt into the darkness as they both climbed into the car. But that wasn't enough. They knew they weren't alone. They could feel it. With a heavy breath, Mark twisted the key in the ignition, praying the car would start. The engine sputtered to life with a violent roar, and they shot down the road, desperate to put miles between themselves and whatever nightmare had just unfolded. But the road was long, and no matter how fast they drove, no matter how far they went, the nightmare didn't end there. Every mile they put behind them, it felt like something was right behind them. Something invisible, something they couldn't see, but they knew it was there. The car radio, which had been silent before, started to crackle to life once again. At first, it was just faint static, but then it grew louder. Louder and louder, until it consumed the entire car. The sound of whispers filled the air, unintelligible, but unmistakably there. Sarah grabbed Mark's arm, her voice barely audible over the static. "Mark, do you hear that?" But Mark didn't answer. He couldn't. He just pressed his foot harder on the gas pedal. The radio continued to glitch, the static filling every corner of the car. The air inside felt heavy, like something was suffocating them, making it hard to breathe. And then the shadows. At the edges of their vision, the darkness seemed to shift. It wasn't just the darkness of the night anymore. It was something else, something alive, moving in the corners of their eyes. At first, it was small, a flicker, a slight movement, but then it grew, like the shadows were reaching for them. Mark glanced in the rearview mirror again. Nothing, no figure, no movement, but still, he couldn't shake the feeling that something was following them. Something was out there, watching, waiting. Days passed after they finally made it home. They thought they were safe. They thought they could move on, that the horror of that night was just a terrible memory. But they were wrong. The feeling never left. Not completely. Every time Mark drove alone at night, the radio would glitch. Static would fill the air, whispering softly, as if someone was trying to get through. Every time Sarah drove, she would swear she saw shadows moving in the corners of her eyes. But when she looked, there was nothing there. It was like something or someone was still with them. And then there was the dream. The same dream, night after night. They were driving again, just like before. But this time, the figure was in the back seat. Silent, motionless, watching them. They couldn't escape. It was always there, always waiting. And every night, they woke up, drenched in sweat, hearts racing. They tried to tell themselves it was just a dream, just their minds playing tricks, but deep down, they knew the truth. The figure wasn't gone. Not really. It was still out there somewhere. And the next time someone else took that road, the next time someone drove down that stretch of highway alone, it might be them that the figure followed. It could be anyone. The figure could be waiting, watching, ready for the next victim. And the nightmare? It might never truly end. So, what do you think? Could it happen to you? The next time you're driving alone at night, those dark, empty roads stretching out before you, the eerie quiet pressing in all around you. Could that figure be waiting for you too? We might never know what truly happened to Mark and Sarah, but their story is a chilling reminder that sometimes, the road you think is safe may hold something far more sinister. It's out there, and the next time you drive, you might just wonder if you're being watched. Have you ever had a creepy encounter on the road? Felt like someone or something was following you in the dark? Maybe you've heard strange noises, seen figures in your rearview mirror, or had the overwhelming sense that you weren't alone. If so, I want to hear your story. Share it with us in the comments below. Let's talk about the strange and terrifying things we've experienced on the road, things that can't be explained by logic or reason. If you enjoyed this terrifying tale and want to hear more spine-chilling stories that will keep you up at night, make sure to like this video, share it with your friends, and subscribe to stay updated on future horror stories. You don't want to miss the next one, because the next time we take a drive down the dark road together, who knows what might be lurking in the shadows, waiting for us to come closer. So buckle up, keep your eyes open, and remember, some roads lead to places where the terror is all too real.